Hi, Honest Discussioner here. How's everybody doing? My friend Monica, Little Kropotkin on YouTube and also her blog, links in the crotch bar, brought up a really interesting topic that I think warrants a discussion, and that is to ask what place in our society does religiously mandated clothing, especially gender-specific clothing, have? Specifically, we're talking about clothing that is to be worn in public at all times, so that limits it mostly to the religion of Islam. Technically, it's called for in Christianity, but I don't know of any denomination which actually follows that particular verse. There are two questions to be asked here. The first is simple, while the latter more nuanced. One, do these type of clothings, such as the hijab on one end or the burqa on the other, contribute to the presence of oppression against women? Two, how should modern society respond if indeed it is oppressive? As I said, the first question is answered quite simply. Yes, clearly mandating women cover themselves up because they are women is something that has in the past been mandated for either the express purpose or with the incidental effect of oppressing women. Even the hijab, which is basically just a head covering that leaves the entire face exposed, sends the message that women need to cover themselves up because they are women. We don't follow from that. What doesn't follow from that, however, is that legal action must take place in order to prevent this oppression. This is because it isn't inherently a tool for oppression. In other words, women may generally want to cover themselves up. To try to use legal force to prevent these clothing options pits the freedom of expression against the freedom from oppression. It is the paradox of freedom that granting it invariably will lead to oppression in some other aspect. Here, we grant the freedom to wear whatever you want, but that invites oppression by allowing men to push women to cover themselves up in certain religions. This will convince them that is what's best for them, and so long as they aren't being physically forced into wearing whatever costume that particular brand of religion mandates, the woman is acting upon her freedom to, in this case, obey. In this way, she is agreeing to be oppressed in some situations. The only way to grant her freedom from this oppression is to remove her freedom of expression, thus the paradox. Our idea of freedom is one that plays the long game. We allow terrible and even evil opinions to be offered and heard with the understanding that over time only the best ones will survive. We don't remove the Westboro Baptist Church from the face of the planet because we know that they will die out, and to take action against them would lead to the slightly less offensive language being censored, and so on, until we become the oppressors. We allow for, as long as there is no intimidation or fraud, for people to use coercion and persuasion to convince people to act against their own interests, knowing that such phenomena will be short-lived on the historical timescale. Luckily, we've already decided against banning these forms of clothing as a society. Only France has gone ahead and with a ban. Even though it's been decided, since I never put out my official position on the matter, and since Monica mentioned it, I thought I'd throw in my 2 cents and discuss why we allow such things. Have a nice day. Honest Discussioner, out.